Where is your friendly Rabbi John Carrier here to you today from a brand new location, still my office, delighted to have you here. We're going to be talking about the Jewish high holidays and share some news with you. Let's go to PJTC, pass it to the center, and ask the question, what is your favorite thing about the high holidays? I've only read about it. What makes the high holidays for you? All that right after this brief musical interview. Stick around. Greetings, heroes and Pasadenans everywhere. I just realized my music's been up way too loud. I don't know if you've heard of my voice yet, but I'm delighted to let you hear my voice. I'll even show you, that's not right, even show you my face. So just getting ready, getting used to my new studio here. Now I got books. You know, I had books before. They just, you couldn't see them where they were. But, and I do read. I've read many words from some of these books. So if you're just joining us for the first time, my name's John Carrier. I am the rabbi at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center, and every week on Thursdays in the afternoon, we bring you this live broadcast. Don't even, I hesitate to call it a broadcast because you can talk to me too. We are simulcasting on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live and on Twitch, kind of a place that not everybody knows about, primarily for live streaming video games, but it's kind of where I got my start on a lot of things in terms of live teaching online. I think I'm the first, probably not the only at this point, but certainly the first rabbi to do video streaming as a rabbi, certainly if you want to look at some old stuff that I did before. But I'm excited to learn with you now. I'm really excited to ask you the question, what is your favorite thing about the high holy days? And if you want to join us and type your answers into the chat, be delighted to chat with you. We got some regulars here. Let's see who's watching us. Wow, look at all those people already in the simulcast. Trig Bell says, your music is loud. I've turned it down. Thanks for that. Kay Dixie says, hello from the Pacific Northwest. Happy to be learning with y'all. As somebody says y'all, I know you're speaking my language. Tammy Lynn Garrison's in the house. Nice to have you here, Tammy Lynn. Dorian Alexander says, shalom l'kulam. That means peace, everybody. And Trig Bell says, hi, Tammy. Trig says, looks great, Rabbi. I told you I was about to get a new 3-bedroom, 2-bath Zoom background. So, yes, we have successfully moved house. This is our new place. It's probably still a little bit echoey. I know I had some echoes last time. Still working on the whole rug situation. So, God willing, we'll have some sound absorbing material in here soon. Also, still working on the desk situation, frankly. I'm super grateful to have some dedicated workspace in my new home. And I think the desk arrives today. The good news is we have internet, so that's pretty cool. That's our lifeblood at this point. But God willing, the desk arrives today because right now I am on a folding card table sitting on a lawn chair. So that the chair comes a little bit after the desk gets here. So Wolfie Gamer 10899 is in the house. Nice to see you, Wolfie Gamer. Tamerlane Garrison says hi. Trig. Carla J is in the house. Says hello from the Facebook Live. Wolfie Gamer 10899 says your camera is glitching. I am not surprised. This is live streaming, so sometimes my camera is glitching. I did upgrade to I think the biggest the biggest bandwidth that our local cable internet company has to offer. So maybe it'll take some of the glitchiness out of it. Not going to be perfect. I guarantee that. That's the one thing I can promise, is that this is a live show and nothing will be perfect. Some things will be pretty good. I have faith in that. So Carla J's, Ruthie's in the house. Hi, Rabbi John. Nice to see you, Ruthie. And Ruthie's saying hi to all her friends. That's what I really value about this particular gang of people who show up for these Ask Me Anything sessions is that they're friends with each other. And so, I'll say sometimes when I'm teaching classes in a synagogue, or sometimes when I was teaching classes in a synagogue before, it's hard to teach some things with other people are kind of chatting in the back. Not so with teaching online. You guys want to chat in the back? Go right ahead. Knock yourselves out. Happy to have you here. Carla J says, fave thing, the energy of the people in the building. That is absolutely true for me too, and I want to acknowledge that this year is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to tell you in a second, if you don't already know, what our plans are at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. But there's just something about a ton of Jews in one place, and the high holidays are necessarily sort of thematically introspective. It's about, as I call it in my book, it's about inner work. Right, it's where we look inside. We figure out what do we want to fix for the coming year. Right, we make our tshuva, we make our plans to turn our lives around to whatever extent that's necessary, which is intensely personal and necessarily introspective. But as Rabbi Greenwald says, there's something powerful about doing that solo work in the company of a lot of other people, and the singing sounds better. Like the more people you have, the closer together the singing sounds better. One of my, I'll say, least favorite things about our current situation is I spent my first 6 years as a rabbi learning a valuable lesson about how awesome it is when you can get a large number of people, or even a small number of people, but as many people as you can get together, sitting as closely as possible, preferably singing. And that's where I get my most spiritual energy and uplift. That's where I feel most connected to God and to the other people there. And right now, that's kind of off the table for us. So that makes me sad. But I do want to agree with what Carla says. The favorite thing is the energy of the people in the building. So maybe this year, our work, insofar as we have outer work to do as well as inner work to do, our outer work is how do we recreate that, or maybe not recreate it, but how do we reimagine that when the room is no longer a room, right? When it doesn't have walls, because God forbid we idolize the walls of the building. I mean, we can pursue that energy, and it's not the same if you don't have the same physical space. I get it. I'm mourning for it too. But how do we reimagine the conduction of that kind of energy when people are connecting from their own rooms along an Ethernet cable or through a Wi-Fi signal, things like that? Trig Bell says, I'm apprehensive about this year's observance, right? How do we take those things that are important to us to honor the high holidays in a way where, we're in a physical location, we put our electronics away, we try to get in the moment when, for the most part, it's going to be hard to access services without those electronics, right? How do we recapture that focus when we're using the very devices that we like to put away during that time? So that apprehension is natural. Ruthie says, I'm glad I saw this notification. Michael Pacheco says, my favorite thing, Neela. Goosebumps just thinking about it. That's another thing that I love that I'm in the process of reimagining right now. Neela is that last part of Yom Kippur, and Goosebumps, man, it's not just a great book series. It perfectly describes that experience of Neela for me as well. Neela, if you're not familiar with it, it's the last service of Yom Kippur. So just set the scene. You may have been fasting for the last 24 to 25 hours, meaning no food, no water. You're kind of running on fumes, physically speaking, but that kind of engenders a sort of spiritual sensitivity, I think. And so maybe you've been fasting for 24, 25 hours. You've been on your feet praying for almost that long in various services throughout the day. And then you get this last part of the service, this final Amidah, this final personal prayer that we lift up as the gates of heaven are closing in our imagination. And that sort of Neela, the word Neela means locking, right? And there's this thought about Yom Kippur being this final great opening of the gates of prayer for us to pour out our prayers, for us to make our amends, for us to call on God. And then Neela is about the locking or the closing of those gates. And what they do in many synagogues, including Pasadena, at least last year, because that was the first time I was there for high holidays, well, traditionally for Nila, the ark is open for the entirety of the Amidah, and it's not a short one, right? So you're standing 20, 30 minutes, something like that, while they're singing, there's praying going on. You're on your feet, but just barely because of the fasting piece, and the ark is open. And in Pasadena, what they did in last year, and I think years prior as well, and I've done this in other synagogues too, is that people take turns, either alone or as families, coming right up to the ark and saying their own private prayers right in front of the Torah scrolls in that space, in that just intense proximity, right? And we don't worship those scrolls, but that feeling of being right there has an effect. And I'll say the first time I did it, it was just like an almost mind-altering experience, and I've enjoyed every year since. Especially, I've enjoyed it as a clergy person. That's kind of like the end of a long day at work, but it's also, at least when I was in Burbank, my wife would come up, and that would be our moment, because now we do high holidays sometimes separately. I'll be at a synagogue and she'll be singing a choir at a different synagogue. But I really treasure those moments where at the end of Yom Kippur, my wife and I would go up, wrap ourselves in one tallis, and just have a moment together in front of the Torah. And I can't describe it really. It's just, and I'm going to be missing that very much. I'll just say that. So I didn't mean to make this a drag. Like, what's your favorite thing that we can't do this year? My point in asking that question was not to bring people down, but it was actually to gather data to figure out, okay, what are the things that we are going to be challenged to reimagine this year, right? If it's something that's nobody's favorite thing, maybe this isn't the year that we do it, or maybe getting the technology right on streaming that thing isn't so important. But what I want to do is try to figure out what is most important to people, to make sure that we preserve that, evolve that, include that somehow in how we do the high holidays. And without further ado, I did say I was going to share some news. We sent out an email to the congregation. This is not going to surprise anybody, but I still want to acknowledge the importance of this decision in like an epochal, is that how you say that word, epochal? It's kind of a big deal. In an epochal sense, we finally, had a committee together about this for a couple of months. We've been sending out surveys. We've been looking at best practices. We've been listening to various municipal and public health authorities, and we finally made the determination we are not having in-person services this year. We are going to be 100% virtual, as it were, in terms of the High Holy Days services themselves. And right up till the last minute, we're thinking, okay, if we get people together, how many people can we get together? And if we can't get everybody together, how do we decide who can come together? What if we have a fantastic outdoor venue where people can be out in the open? And I can share with you now, and I was maybe hesitated before because this was kind of not public and the decision hadn't been made, but now it's moot. So I'll share with you, we actually were in talks with the Santa Anita racetrack. And everybody's first question, the answer is, no, it doesn't really smell like horses that bad. But we had this great outdoor venue with grandstands. We thought, okay, this thing holds 10,000 people. If let's say 200 or 300 or 400 people came, we can sit everybody far enough apart that everybody be safe and we would still be together. And we actually asked people like, okay, if we got Santa Anita racetrack, would you come? And about half the people said yes. But then the day after we sent that out, and the day after most people gave their answers, Governor Newsom comes out with a new guideline / restriction, and it just and people came to us and said, like, look, yesterday I said yes, but now in light of these new recommendations, I would say no. So our data was a little bit pooched, to use a technical statistical term. And so we decided, like, look, given the state of the pandemic, given the state of various state and municipal orders, we could put together an amazing service inside that was safe, do a ton of work figuring, okay, have somebody with a stopwatch, like measuring time between people's trips to the bathroom, because that's a thing. You can't let people go to the bathroom at the same time and you have to wait a little bit. You know, we can, if we just moved heaven and earth and figured all that stuff out, how to do it in person inside or how to do it in person outside, it could be snatched away from us like that. And so we thought the one thing that we can control, kind of, because really nothing's in our control. I say that as a religious person. The one thing that we have the most influence over is a service that we're streaming to other people. So rather than kind of put our holy moments in the hands of municipal authorities, of a virus that does not respect our need to get together, let's do the most amazing, wonderful online High Holidays experience that we can. And that email went out a couple days ago. So if anybody's watching this who didn't read that, wanted to make sure you know about it. PJTC is going to be 100% virtual this year. That doesn't mean it's just going to be a TV show, right? We're, along with that, I mean, the services are going to be virtual, but I think the community is going to be real in the sense that leading up to that, we're going to be sharing a lot of resources, videos, pre-recorded audio, various just like hands-on resources, like maybe a round hollow making kit. I mean, I'm just blue skying here because we've been spending the last several days, now that we know what we're doing, just throwing spaghetti against the wall, seeing like, okay, what can we do to help people stay connected and feel connected? Joint art projects. Great idea about that. Stay tuned. Just because I don't want to. It's not that I want to spoil it. I just don't want to mess it up because they're planning some cool stuff. Like I said, video, audio, a kind of Elul daily check-in. Whether we do that through email or maybe an app or something like that, where you'll get messages from us for all the days of Elul, just giving you a prayer or an intention or asking a question and getting folks to think about that important time of Elul. Like Elul is all about Heshbon HaNefesh, which means sort of in dry terms, an accounting of the soul. We're intended to spend that month leading up to Rosh Hashanah, the month of Elul, looking inside, figuring out, what parts of ourself or our behavior more like we're not proud of, that we want to fix. Do we need to make amends with people? Do we need to make a plan for living a better life or being a better acting person in the year to come? That's what Elul is all about. And so we're working on ways to really guide and shape an Elul experience where people may go into this coming high holiday season more thoroughly prepared or with a deeper sense of connection than they may ever have had. So that's our goal, is that this isn't just a hack, right? This isn't just, okay, everything sucks, we're going to, take chicken scratch and make chicken salad, as one of my bosses used to say. I'm paraphrasing. But how do we actually take advantage of this moment and take advantage of connection technologies that previous years we haven't, to make this, for some people, maybe a more meaningful high holidays that they've ever experienced, right? And at the same time, acknowledging those things that people have valued in years past, and even if we can't have them exactly the way they've been, how do we provide that in the new medium that we are challenged to take part in? So that's what I wanted to get across today is PJTC services. We're not going to have any in-person services. It's probably what it's going to look like. And again, we're still fleshing this out. Cantor, Ruth, and I, and to some extent our davening team, these are musicians and singers and things, are going to be in the sanctuary, in our beautiful Galpert sanctuary. However we can do that safely. We're measuring plexiglass these days. I never thought, not one day in rabbinical school did they give us like Hilchot plexiglass. Like, okay, to have we spent months studying a sukkah. Like, okay, to have a real sukkah, it needs to be this high and this wide and, 3 complete walls and a partial wall. I actually saw somebody post like, the halacha of a drive-through sukkah. Could you have like 2 full walls and partial walls? So you could drive through a sukkah without actually getting your joims on anything. So we're talking about plexiglass, distance, all these things, but how do we, get together to lead singing, to share music, to share teaching? So the time slots where we would normally have services, we will be live streaming a service from there. But it's not going to look like every single Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur service you've ever been to. It'll probably be shorter, for one thing, because what we're going to do is take some of those things which we normally do as a part of the service that aren't necessarily integral to Rosh Hashanah. I mean, the thing about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is these are also times of community gathering. A synagogue is just as much a Beit Knesset as it is a Beit Tefillah. It's as much a place of social gathering as it is a place for prayer. And so sometimes, some people ask, like, why are the services so dadgum long? And part of it's for social reasons in addition to liturgical ones. And so we'll be live streaming the liturgical stuff. But the other things we're hoping we can accomplish in other ways, make them Zoom meetings at another time. Maybe the Torah service will be kind of a choose your own adventure. Do you want to go to something that sounds very much like the Torah being read and Aliyot and all that stuff like they do on Rosh Hashanah? We'll have that. Would you prefer to go to a lecture or a group discussion on the state of the art of our social justice work? Or to have a more of a seminar-based kind of discussion about the Torah readings for Yom Kippur or the themes of tshuva and things like that. So we want to not just take the thing that we always do and turn a camera on and do it that way, but we want to really use this challenge to reimagine the High Holy Days in a way that, frankly, you deserve. And I've given this speech before, when I was asking my rabbi, like, am I allowed to change services at all? And he told me 5-6 years ago, he says, no, I insist. Right? If Rabbi Akiva were around today, if Rabbi Akiva popped up out of the ground, in front of your central casting conservative synagogue and listened to services, he'd be like, what have you really been doing this for the last 2,000 years? Me and my buddies invented this service out of whole cloth 2,000 years ago because we just lost the temple and nobody knew what to do. And so we rolled up our sleeves and we took those most important, essential aspects of connecting with the Holy One and connecting with each other, and we did it the way we could do it, with what we had at the time. Are you telling me, Rabbi Akiva would say, that nothing has changed in the Jewish world since then? We've had no major catastrophes that would inspire one to maybe sing a song that wasn't written 1,000 years ago. So this was my rabbi's chizuk to me, and this is my chizuk to that is a gentle nudge and encouragement to our community to face this challenge with optimism, with creativity, with enthusiasm, with deep humility and honor for our tradition and those things which have carried us through tougher times than this, and come out with services that are worthy of the occasion. And I really hope everybody who's here today can join us for that. Sorry, I just got on a bit of a rant there, so I want to check what's going on in the chat here. Yeah, Trig says, I'm so afraid I'm going to miss observing the holidays, right? And there is going to be stuff to miss, to be sure. As Ruthie says, we can support each other and make sure we are observant. Dorian says, what does Dorian say? The 10 days of repentance, that is the Aseret Yemei Tshuva in Hebrew. The 10 days of repentance, Dorian says, some might find it depressing to think over mistakes over the past year, but I find it always the best way to prepare for Yom Kippur and to find hope for improvement in the new year. Right? We do a lot of, like, what they call al-chaitz. We do this on account of the sin. Like, we do a lot of chest beating and enumeration of our faults. And yes, that can be depressing as it is insightful. But it's it's a confession to clear the path, right? We are letting go. We're not letting go of responsibility for those things, but we're owning them so that we can make proper restitution, so that we can recognize the path that we've been on, because that's the only way to grow through them. right? And so if you look at it like Dorian is saying with hope, then it gives an entirely different motivation to get through that kind of accounting. On behalf of my Ema Natalie, she says her favorite thing is the spiritual connection. Right? If there's one thing I learned from my time with the Jew Curious School and all you great folks who are part of that, is that virtual community is 100% real community. And I'm not knocking the impersonal, geographically based community that PJTC has, because it is amazing. But I've also noticed that people in the synagogue who've been forced to take their lives and their connection virtually to like a different ether, many of them are, some of them are really missing it. Some people feel completely disconnected, and some people feel more connected than they ever have. And I want to acknowledge both of those things. Ruthie says, I used to live right down the street from the racetrack. Tammy said, I had to figure out all this stuff for work and everything is constantly changing. I'm always stressed out. You were doing the right thing. Well, thank you. That's the other piece of it, is that the last, 4 months, 5 months, it's Blur's Day already. The last 4 months have been about learning how to take what we love and do it with our left hand, or with our toes, or with some other way than we're used to. Let's see. Cassie says, think Natalie Sirota has figured out how to receive emails from PJTC. Yep. We've kind of lost our individual shuls temporarily. Adaptation and change is healthy. K. Dixie says, Maria Matlinska, if you contact PJTC directly, those details should be available. Oh, there's Maria. I didn't see you, Maria. Nice to see you here. It says, hello from Canada. I love when people pop in from different places and let us know where they're from. We've on this chat had people from Cyprus, people from all over the world checking in with us. So I really appreciate the shout outs geographically. Hello from Canada. Random question. What prayer book is used for Saturday morning service at PJTC? I would really like to get a hold of it and be able to follow. So let's do, I'll tell you exactly which one, and I'll tell you how to get a hold of it. We use we're a little bit old fashioned, not that old fashioned, like, 90s or 2000s old fashioned. We use the Sidur Sim Shalom, the Shabbat and Holidays edition. So this was the updated version. I think it came out in the 90s or something, where it's kind of splits the weekday and the Shabbat ones. So we use the Shabbat and Holidays Sim Shalom, and that's for our weekly prayer services on Friday night and Saturday morning. And if you email me, I can help you get a PDF copy of the whole thing. I don't know what what kind of stamps to use to get it to Canada. But the Rabbinical Assembly, which is the publisher of that book, has made that book freely available online, and it's a little bit confusing to go through their form to get it. And so I could tell you, just go to Rabbinical Assembly and look for Sim Shalom, or you can email me at RabbiCarrier at RabbiCarrier, just like that big boat that carries planes, RabbiCarrier at pjtc.net. We're a .net. And I can help you get a hold of a PDF copy of that very Siddur. So happy to do that. And nice to meet you, Maria. Thanks for coming in from Canada. Where's our pal? So Katsy Dixon says, where's our pal from Poland today? Vit. Yeah, Vit. I heard from Vit. Vit's still alive and kicking, just a little busy with something and can't join. Maybe, I guess that's why he can't join us today. So Vit's, I know Vit's here in spirit. And Maria Matlinska says, thank you. We'll get in touch. Be very happy to help. I just sent that Siddur out to somebody the other day, and actually I just remembered an email somebody sent me. I got to send that to somebody else too. So thanks for the reminder. It's really, I appreciate your sharing me with some of your favorite parts of the high holidays. I'm sad that some of my favorite parts of the high holidays, I'm going to tell you, Avinu Malkeinu. Gosh, y'all, that hits me in the kishkas every time. Like that, just that it's a particular song from the high holidays, and it's got that great refrain, Avinu Malkeinu, and it just it gets me. And when you have like 5 or 6 or 1,000, meaning 1,000 people singing it at once in the one room, it brings me to tears like every single time. And every once in a while, and actually this is true this year, every once in a while, so one small feature of the Jewish liturgy is that we don't sing Avinu Malkeinu on Shabbat. And so every once in a while, when Yom Kippur or one of the days of Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, we don't get to sing Avinu Malkeinu, and I miss it. And this year we won't be together in a room for it at all, and I'll miss it very, very much. But I know that we're going to be singing it, and I know that we're also going to be recording it ahead of time for people who want something ahead of time. So you'll be able to hear me sing it, as good as that is. Even better, you'll be able to hear Cantor Ruth sing it, and that'll be great. And put it on at home and sing it with us. And that's one thing I miss about doing virtual services is I can't hear other people singing. But people have ping me and let me know, like, yeah, we're singing with you. And so I always say people, like, look, if you've ever been shy about singing in public in the synagogue, now's your chance. You can sing along with us and no one will know that it's you singing or what you even sound like, right? And so if you want to sing to your cat, sing to your dog, close the windows so the neighbor can't hear you. If you're at all self-conscious about your voice, it has never been a better time than to sing along with us at service than it is right now. So please take advantage of that. Trig is asking, can you answer my question about PJTC email lists? This question's come up before. I don't know if I've had a satisfying answer before, but I will tell you that, and this is something that is evolving. In the past, the policy of PJTC is to have an email list just for members of the temple. And there have been many, and I didn't know that when I first started. So I'm like, hey, if you want to know what's going on, just, add yourself to the email list. Right now, we're working through the mechanics of sharing with a broader world what's going on at PJTC so that other people can take advantage of it. I know one of the questions has been security, because, at least if we're keeping it to the membership, we know who it is who's accessing it. And that was a question for physical security before. Do we want anybody who signs up to know exactly what we're doing in the building at any given time? And now, frankly, with Zoom, we send all links to all of our Zoom stuff in our membership email. And that's been one way that we've avoided some of the shenanigans that have happened with randos coming into Zoom and acting fools and all that stuff. And so that's where it is right now. We're working on figuring out, okay, whether and how to share what we do with the broader world. And I'll tell you what, I am for it. I am absolutely for us sharing as much as we can with as many people as possible. Because if you've ever heard me talk before, you know what it means to me to get learning, to get community, to get all the wonderful things that Judaism has and Jewish people and the Jewish community, all the things that we have to help lift up people's lives. That should be accessible to everybody. And we have to do it in a safe and a sustainable way. But the more we can get this out into the world, I think the safer Jews become, because people realize that we're people too, and the better off other people are going to be. And that's what I'm in this for. So, Kat C. Dixon says, she likes when Cantor Ruth says during the services, sing as loudly as your neighbors can tolerate. That's been something to get our heads around, is like, we're leading services the way we've been trained and practiced to lead services, but realizing that people are joining us in different ways. And so realizing that, the services are different when you see people dressed nicely for Friday night, sitting in rows of chairs in front of you. Shabbos is also for people in their jammies. In fact, jammies are about as Shabbos as you get, right? So how do we take advantage of the fact that people are at home? When you're at home, when you come to services and we light candles, we're really just, for practical reasons, we're lighting 2 candles, right? Because that's the custom for Friday night candles. You light 2 candles, or some people do it differently. In my home, we light 2 plus another one for all of our children. And so we've got 4 kids all together. Haven't thought about lighting one for the dog yet. She's not fire safe. But so we light 6 candles at home. But if you're at PJTC, we're lighting 2 candles and everybody sees 2 candles. if you're joining us from home, you can light your candles along with us. And for the 50 or 100 or 150, just compiling the numbers of people who join us, what does that feel like when 100 people in 100 households are lighting candles all at the same time? That's something that we couldn't do before. And so trying to take advantage of those things. Maybe you sing louder when you're in your jammies. Maybe you feel better about, sharing your voice when you think nobody's listening. And also I miss that moment of when we do a prayer for healing, we have a list of people who asked to be on that list or asked, other people to be on that list. But I also cherish the moment where we read that list and then say, okay, who else? Who else belongs on this list? And people would share the names of people they wanted to pray for. And we'd go around the whole room until everybody had a chance. I miss that moment, right? I miss that moment of people saying the names out loud of people who needed healing, or people who had a yard site who were on the yard site list. So I encourage people to share those names out loud when they're at home. So Cassie Dick said we're in style wearing our house coats. So it's an interesting time to be a rabbi. I'll say that. It's an interesting time to be a Jewish person. It's certainly an interesting time to be a Jew-curious person. That's been a big transition for me personally in teaching about Judaism. And people have said, hey, Rabbi, what's the Jewish way to do this or that? Or what's the Jewish ritual around this or that? And I'd say, well, it used to be, if it's stuff that's at home, which most Jewish activity is, then it's the same. Nothing has changed. When it comes to synagogue services, everything has changed. In many ways, there are things that translate, and in many ways, there are things that don't. And so, I like to teach what the tradition has been, but it's also a good challenge to teach, okay, here's what we do now, because this is what we can do now, or this is what we have to do now to keep people safe. And that, God willing, it doesn't hang on so long that these new traditions out of urgency and exigency stick around. But I kind of think there are going to be some new traditions that come up because we were in this moment that are worth keeping around. And I'm excited to see what those are and to teach them in an introduction to Judaism class 30 years from now. God willing, I'm still teaching stuff 30 years from now. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I really appreciate everybody who shared your favorite moments. Thanks for letting me talk about what we're planning on doing in PJTC. The most I could say is stay tuned. And so if you can get on the PJTC email list, you'll hear about all of these things. But I promise I'll also be sharing these with you over these live sessions so that you'll know what's going on. So thank you very much for coming and joining us today. Hold on one second. I just got to fix something technical. Da, 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 da. And the hammer. Cool. All right. Sometimes I have to take the hammer out. And ask me later if you don't know what I'm talking about. So thanks everybody for joining us, and really delighted to learn with you, to hear what is in your heart and what your voice has to say. Until next time, heroes. Just a little quick plug. We're here every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Please consider joining us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or StreamSpot for our live streaming services. This week is our last week of a month of experimentation. We'll see what we learn that sticks around after that. But this Friday night at 7:30, this Saturday morning at 9:30, all that Pacific time. Really delighted to have you join us for that, for this. Just good to know you. So until next time, my Pasadenans and heroes everywhere. Peace.